Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Rebecca Fine. I'm an Associate Director of Research and Media Insights at Samba TV, where I dig into our viewership data to find out who's watching what on television.
And I'm Kristen Shu, Senior Research Manager at Samba TV, where I work with clients to measure and optimize their media campaigns.
And we are excited to talk to you today about our research study surrounding diversity or lack thereof in TV. It's no secret that turning on your TV and flipping through channels won't paint a realistic picture of who lives in America. Classic shows like Friends, Seinfeld, and The Office depict ordinary lives, but it's important to remember that they're only ordinary for a specific subset of Americans, namely white Americans. America's demographics are quickly changing and becoming more and more diverse. And in this context, it's important for studios and advertisers to be cognizant of what this means for the TV industry. By 2065, over 50% of the US will identify as non-white, and it's likely that the status quo of shows like Friends and Seinfeld, only highlighting white stories, won't resonate for modern viewers. This changing landscape is something that's on all of our minds as researchers and advertisers, and really as human beings, but rather than rely on assumptions or general theories, we wanted to see how the data actually looks behind diversity in TV and how that impacts viewership. With this in mind, we identified a few key research questions we wanted to answer with this study. First of all, we wanted to determine a baseline of how representation was faring in popular TV. Are the actors in popular TV shows representative of how diverse America really is, or are we still seeing white leads kind of dominate the space like what we've seen in Friends and Seinfeld? And then these two second research questions sort of went hand in hand in that we wanted to assess the impact that having a diverse cast had on viewership of these popular shows. Essentially, are people more likely to watch TV shows where they really see themselves represented, or does that not have a huge impact? It's always been kind of our assumption that diversity in cast and diverse viewership were related, but does the data back that up? And then finally, are viewers of diverse shows a valuable ad target? Are these valuable ad blocks that advertisers should be paying special attention to?
With these questions in mind, we devised a study that focused on the top 50 viewed shows in February 2021. By combining cast data from Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, along with Samba's TV data and technology, we were able to analyze the relationship between the diversity of shows and the viewers that watch them. Diving a bit more into the specifics of how we designed this study. This is a sampling of the top 50 shows that we looked at. And as you can see, they varied in terms of genre and release date, as well as platform, with some shows having aired on streaming and others on linear. Using this list of shows, we went through each show individually on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb to determine who they listed as the top 3 billed actors. From that list of top actors, we went through and marked how many were white, Black, Hispanic, and Asian. From this, we were able to determine the percentage of leading cast members that were non-white for each show. So we then tied this cast data together with Samba TV's proprietary viewership data to understand who exactly was watching these shows. Before diving into the specifics of this study, I do want to talk a little bit about Samba's technology so that everyone understands where this data is coming from. Samba gathers viewership data through our automatic content recognition or ACR technology, which is embedded in millions of smart TVs. With the way our technology works, because it sits inside the TV at the chipset level, our technology can see everything that touches the glass. And it's constantly processing and understanding the ad exposures and program viewership. To understand all the billions of data points we receive, we've created research panels that allow us to measure with statistical significance and accuracy. In the US specifically, our panel is made up of 3 million households, which is normalized to the US Census by geo, gender, age, and income. This translates to a research panel that is within 0.03% accuracy against the US Census, meaning that our data is extremely reflective of what is happening in the US as a whole. Having such a representative panel was crucial to our study, which required accurate data surrounding ethnic viewership.
So using Samba's ACR tech and research panel that Kristen just discussed, the next step here was pulling data surrounding who was viewing each of these shows. So for each show, we measured the fraction of viewership comprised by people from each of the ethnic groups listed here, and ultimately determined the percent of viewership driven by non-white viewers as a whole for each show, which is the fourth column displayed here. So having pulled all of that data surrounding cast composition and then also show viewership, we were then able to derive correlations between the percent of non-white cast members and the percent of non-white viewers. So what we have displayed here is the overall correlation between higher levels of diversity in programming, so that third column there, and diversity of viewers, which is the last column. And as you can see, it's a positive correlation between those two metrics of about 0.3, which says to us that there is in fact a relationship between diverse viewers watching shows with higher levels of diversity. We also broke out how the viewership of each individual ethnic group correlated with shows featuring a higher percentage of non-white leads, which is what's depicted in this graph here. So to get these correlations, we essentially took the percentage of viewers of each ethnicity for each show and correlated that against each show's percentage of non-white leads. And on this graph, the further right that the little bubble is, the stronger the relationship was for that group to watch shows with diverse leads. So as you can see, Black viewers had the strongest relationship there at 0.27, followed by Hispanic viewers, while Asian viewers saw virtually no correlation. And then white viewers had a negative relationship of about 0.3 with viewership of diverse shows. Going to get into this a little bit more in the next few slides, but we thought that that lack of relationship for Asian viewers was especially interesting since there was very little representation of that group within the top actors of the month. So diving a little bit more deeply into the cast compositions and what those raw numbers look like, we found that 76% of lead actors in the top shows were white, whereas 24% were Black, Hispanic, Asian, or another ethnicity. So that's what's depicted in the second bar of that top chart. And you can see the breakdown of where that 24% is coming from, which was mostly from Black actors at 17%. The top bar is showing the breakdown of the US Census, and we wanted to show that head-to-head comparison to really illustrate how far off the cast compositions were from who actually lives in America. So even though only 61% of the US is white, 76% of the top actors were white, whereas 24% of the US identifies as Hispanic or Asian, and only 6% of the top actors were either of those ethnicities. These charts break down the cast compositions at a show level rather than at an actor level. So rolling it up based on the percentage of top shows with a white lead, Black lead, Hispanic lead, or an Asian lead. And you can see that almost every show featured a white lead and about half featured a Black lead, whereas less than 15% featured either a Hispanic or Asian lead. In tying this back to the data we found surrounding correlations with viewership, the fact that we did not see a positive correlation between Asian viewers watching diverse shows could have been impacted by their very low representation within those shows.
So how do these findings answer our original research questions? Overall, TV is not representative. The actors in popular TV shows were mainly white, with less than a fourth of those actors representing any other race. Despite this, there's strong evidence that diverse households are more likely to watch content with a diverse cast. People are more likely to watch shows where they see themselves represented. Our research found a 0.32 correlation between diverse households and viewership of shows with diverse leads. It's clear that the outdated approach of starring an all-white cast fails to resonate among many modern viewers. So what does this mean for the entertainment industry at large? The US's demographics are becoming increasingly diverse, but representation is minimal at best and often non-existent. This is a state that cannot continue in a world that is rightfully emphasizing diversity and inclusion now more than ever. If this lack of diversity continues, studios may stand to lose diverse audiences. There's a hunger for diverse content. In the film industry, we've seen movies that star diverse leads and casts like Black Panther and Crazy Rich Asians have huge box office openings. But on the day-to-day, there's not much diverse content that people can turn to. If there's a lack of interest in TV content being released, if there's no drive to tune in, studios stand to lose diverse audiences. As we're all aware, content is becoming available on more and more platforms. The 50 shows included in this analysis varied across linear networks and streaming platforms. Despite the different platforms, networks, and even genres, as a whole, diversity was lacking. The days of people taking what they can get are now over. Now, more than ever, people want to feel connected with content. They want to see themselves in the characters they're watching. It's long past time for studios to fill that need, and the studio that does so will stand out from the crowd. So then turning specifically to the implications for advertisers. Diverse audiences are more likely to watch diverse content. So when choosing where and when to air ads, advertisers need to think about things beyond the network or genre. With people wanting to feel connected with what they're watching, advertisers need to look at all aspects of a program, including who is starring in the show and if that's something that people can relate to. With diverse audiences more interested in diverse shows, these blocks are not only a good time to reach these audiences, but a good time to reach them when they're more likely to be interested, more engaged overall. With people constantly being exposed to advertisements, relevancy of both the content and the ad is undeniably important. As we saw, the US is getting more and more diverse. And in order to reach different ethnic groups, advertisers need to look beyond the world of Friends and Seinfeld to stay relevant. We also think it's really important to call out that advertisers have the power to make these demands. If they're spending on ad blocks with diverse leads, they'll be in a position to push studios for more diverse content and help improve the status quo.
All right, thanks so much for listening in. If you have any questions, please join the live Q&A session later today. And for more TV insights, please follow Samba TV on Instagram and Twitter, and check out our blog for more research studies and analyses like this one. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you again.